I've spent 2 decades working at the intersection between science, business, and funding, where genuine, new-to-the-world innovations come from. I've designed and delivered accelerator programs to launch innovative ventures, mentored founders in taking an innovation to the market all over the world. And I also provide consultancy and other support services to universities and public sector bodies that are looking to optimize how they take forward the fantastic ideas generated by scientists and researchers and turn them into something with real impact to make the world a better place and create new commercial opportunities. And we're going to talk about some of the most important skills that you need to master if you're going to be successful at this. What we're going to focus on now is how you work out what the killer questions are when you're trying to commercialize an innovation. How do you find out what things might stop your innovation in its tracks, for example? This is a really important aspect to be able to consider when you're thinking about commercializing innovation. It's very unlikely that you'll only have one opportunity that you're working on. It's much more likely that there will be multiple opportunities and you'll need to triage them. You'll need to decide which ones will really benefit from you putting in resources of time and money and expertise into trying to take that particular innovation forward. In order to do this, you have to become a scientist, if you're not one already. What I mean is that you have to develop a hypothesis. You do most of this, most of the time in collaboration with the inventor of the innovation, but not always. However, they will usually have good insight into some of the questions you will need to answer. What you have to do is to create a hypothesis about the product that can be created from the innovation you're working on. You have to be able to say, I hypothesize that the following will exist. Now, often you will find you don't really know what you're hypothesizing if you're at an early stage. So I've got a bit of a template for you, and it's here. I'm going to read this out for you. Your hypothesis is that my product is a something that allows someone to do something in a way that is better using technology, which is unlike the competition and because it provides advantages that they can't give. But you can see here that there are 7 things that we need to be able to address and that we need to be able to describe properly. And once you've done that, you can start testing your hypothesis. So you're looking at the 7 key features of what you think this innovation can deliver. And for each of those, you'll develop questions and you'll create data. So we're saying, my product is a something. Make sure you understand what that something is. Remember, we're focusing on a product, not a description of the innovation in its technological terms. So your product may be a new diagnostic method or a new dyeing process for creating bespoke inks, or it could be a gadget that creates better fuel efficiency. But you have to be able to describe what the innovation actually will lead to. It's not good enough just to describe the innovation in technical terms. This has to be something that somebody wants to buy or benefit from using. So make sure you can explain why the innovation matters. Actually, you may find sometimes that what you thought the innovation could be used for is very different from the original concept that was articulated. That's fine. That's part of a successful iterative process. But you need to be able to explain this, not just describe the innovation in different words. Once you've worked out how to describe what your innovation can generate in terms of a product, you need then to think about who actually needs it. Who is going to be the user of this innovation and who is going to be the final customer? This is helpful in many ways. It allows you, first of all, to start thinking about where you sit in the supply chain. And therefore, that allows you to focus on who you'll need to be speaking to. It's also useful because it starts leading you into the area of market size. If you can identify that there's a product, a potential user, somebody who wants your product, but there are only 3 of them in the world, you better hope you've got a really high value product, because otherwise, although you've got something that although you've got somebody who needs it, they're never going to pay enough to have made it worth commercializing. So this question is basically, who cares about your innovation? Why would somebody want to pay money to be able to access what you've created? The next point to be able to define is what it is that your product allows someone to do. What is it that it enables? And we're going to be focusing in the module content on looking at this through the lens of what the problem is. So what problem can your innovation solve? What is it that it enables for people? This is important because if it doesn't solve a problem and doesn't enable anyone to do anything, why would they want it? But this might enable a production process. It might enable the development of a whole new area of technology. It might be a research tool, but you need to understand and convey why someone would be interested in so that users can actually employ your innovation. And that's very helpful because when you go out to talk to people, you can then describe why you think they might want it. How is what you're offering better than what already exists or is under development by potential competitors? Now, better is a very vague term. It doesn't mean anything. So think about what your better means. Is it faster? Is it cheaper? Is it smaller? Is it safer? Is it longer lasting? Is it more efficient? Work out which of those things your innovation is compared to what exists and what's being created. Ideally, this would be defined by what the customers actually value. And remember, it may be that it is better in one or more of these domains. That's absolutely fine. But make sure you understand this. Have quantitative data that explains and can convince potential buyers or partners that this is indeed the case. But what you have to be very careful of is that something may be technically better, but it not mattering commercially. For example, you've invented, your team, whoever has created this innovation, what's been invented is maybe 5 times faster than what exists. But maybe 5 times faster isn't enough actually to make this commercially attractive. Maybe because of all the development costs that will be required, it needs to be 100 times faster. Alternatively, it could be that something can be created for half the price of existing offerings. You could have created a product, but what if the price isn't the most important thing? What if safety is more important? What you don't want to do is keep optimizing in a particular direction if that isn't what the market needs. So again, addressing this question of better and doing so in an iterative way that allows you to work out exactly what niche your product needs to move into. Because otherwise, you may create something which is better in one domain, but nobody's willing to pay for that improvement because it doesn't actually matter to them. The next part, my innovation, is where you need to describe what the technology is. Now, you don't have to do it in enormous detail, and you don't have to do it in a way that reveals any information to the people that you're asking that's confidential. You don't want to be giving away confidential information, but it's very important that you explain basically what kind of technology you're planning to use. The reason for this is that you may actually be developing a product for a particular market that certain types of technology are not allowed into. A classic example of this was when researchers trying to develop a biosensor that would detect contamination of wells in India. And they did so by looking for levels of arsenic, which is a big problem in the area. Now, the problem was that the technology relied on the use of a genetically modified bacterium. And this made it a complete non-starter because India would not allow genetically modified technologies to be used in their country. Another example, if you're creating something that uses radiation as its detection method, this may take it into a realm where actually it's not viable in the marketplace because that marketplace is not set up for using radiation. For example, if you're using it in science kits for schools, nobody wants to put radiation in children's hands. So make sure that you've described the most important features of the technology, because when you go out to interrogate the market, this is extremely important. The next part, unlike the existing solution, is a chance for you to state who the competition are in your field and what they're developing. You need to be able to do this so that investors or people giving you feedback will actually be able to think about how feasible your approach is, for example. You may not want to go up against Google as your main competitor because they're very big and you're probably very small, for example. But when you're thinking about competition, it's really important you just don't think about competitors who have similar technologies to you. This is because often the most valuable new innovations are ones that solve problems by using different technologies. The company Kodak, for example, got very badly caught out by this. They simply did not anticipate the importance of the digital camera movement. So all of their investment continued to go into film technologies because they thought people would still want film photographs. They thought that they should keep creating better film because customers would want better film. But what customers actually wanted was an easier way of creating a photograph. They didn't care about the medium. The same thing is happening in terms of the camera market now. Most people take most of their photos on their phones. So don't get caught out by thinking about the competition only in terms of others working on the same technologies as you. Think about competitors who can solve the same business problem as you, but in a different way, and make sure you really understand that landscape. Consider as well the option of doing nothing as an alternative to consider. If the problem for the customers is not that severe and the motivation to change is therefore not present. Finally, you want to be able to explain the advantages of your technology and your innovation over the competitors' similar offerings. Again, this ties back into the question of what your definition of better is, but you need to articulate this in a way that allows you to show where you have a real competitive advantage. Perhaps your innovation will have an easier regulatory route. Perhaps you're more advanced in the development. Perhaps you have access to more funding, or you have access to a market that your competitors can't reach. So when you're thinking about this issue of why you are better than your competitors, bear in mind there are multiple ways of being better, and it depends on the precise business environment and the geographical location in which you're working. So once you've addressed all of these questions, you should have a very testable hypothesis. You should know where you need to focus your innovation, and you should know what are its greatest weaknesses. And the key thing when you've done this analysis is to focus on the weaknesses. Find the ones that may actually destroy your product or destroy its ability to access its market. Find them at the early stage. Don't put the effort in to developing the innovation only for the market to tell you later on. In terms of what makes a good impact hypothesis, these things go into making that. First of all, it is specific. It's related to a defined opportunity. It's easy to visualize, able to be understood by a layperson, and must immediately make sense in terms of the advantages. The benefits you're stating must be quantifiable, and its ambitions similarly. Unless you have the resources to dominate the world, don't promise it. Finally, your impact hypothesis must be testable. You should be able to test each element of the impact hypothesis with the market and see if you're on to a good thing. Now, it's always very tempting to look for and work on the positive feedback that you receive, but no amount of positive data will take you any further forward if there is a massive flaw in your commercial proposition. So keep having those conversations. Keep testing that the assumptions that you've made are reasonable ones. This is why you have to have your network really well developed. Remember, wherever you can, fail fast and fail cheap. Work out the quickest way of testing whether or not you really can access the market that you want. And if you can't, move on. There are other opportunities out there. Okay, now it's your turn. What I'd like you to do prior to the start of the Creating Health Impact from Research course is to create a first draft of an impact hypothesis for your research. I'd like you to use that structure I just gave you, and I'll put it on the screen in just a second, and have a first go, starting first of all from the problem that you solve, who that problem is an issue for, and why your innovation potentially could have advantages to alternative solutions to solving that problem. Once you've had a first go at this, I'd like you to email it to this address on the screen. And what I'll be doing is reviewing those and giving you some confidential feedback to help you improve your impact hypothesis prior to starting the taught modules of the course. So here's the framework I'd like you to complete. So have a first go at creating a potential area that your innovation can achieve impact, and describe it in this way. My innovation is a something that allows someone to solve a problem by using your innovation. Unlike the existing solutions from existing providers, or of course, alternative solutions or doing nothing, my innovation will be better, leading to benefit. And try and follow the approach I outlined in this introductory module to try and really describe why you think your innovation will be better for the people that you're trying to help. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to meeting you on the course.